Do you feel like you're single and that's the reason that you are lonely in this season? Well, loneliness is one of those sneaky emotions that tend to have underlying causes. If you're not careful, you can be attributing your loneliness to the wrong thing. But today we are going to talk about those causes of loneliness, so join me after this. Hey sis, welcome to Goodbye Heartbreak, Hello Healing. Are you hurt and confused after a recent breakup? Are you having thoughts like, I can't believe I'm here again, why wasn't I enough for him, or I'm never going to get married? Do you find yourself Googling how to get past the breakup or how to heal my broken heart? Do you start your morning feeling like you can finally breathe again, only to fall apart when you see a picture of your ex on social media? Hey sis, I'm Candace. I too was a single Christian woman who was heartbroken but still desired marriage. I too had numerous failed relationships and wished the right man would come along. I wanted closure from past relationships, healing for my heart, and I wanted to feel joy in my life again. But the truth is, I had no idea where to start or how to make any of this happen. Until I found the secret, partnering with God to heal from heartbreak. In this podcast, you will find tips for moving on after breakups, growing your relationship with God, and preparing for future relationships so that you will heal your heart and be ready to move forward into the life you desire. So turn off those heartbreak songs and turn me up in those earbuds. It's time to heal, sis. Hey sis, and welcome back for another episode of Goodbye Heartbreak, Hello Healing. Thank you for joining me on today. If you're new here, go ahead and subscribe to the podcast. If you haven't yet, if you've been rocking with us for a while, you know the drill. And if you have not left your 5-star written review yet, go ahead and leave your review. It is something that really helps the show and it helps other women just like you to find the show, okay? Also, sis, if you're feeling like you are struggling to pray in this season because you're not quite sure what to pray for, how to pray, every time you go into prayer, you get down or you're just lost for words, sis, I have a prayer for you in this specific situation that you are in. It is a prayer to get over a breakup, okay? It's a prayer for healing your broken heart. So I have a link for you down in the show notes. Go ahead and snag that prayer. It is so very helpful and you're going to love it. It's short, but it's powerful. So make sure you get that. So today we are talking about loneliness. You know, this isn't a topic I have addressed yet on the podcast. I don't think that I have, but there's a lot of episodes here, so maybe I did and I just don't remember. But it's not something that we've talked about a lot yet. But I do want to talk about it. I want to address it on today because loneliness is something that we all struggle with from time to time. And usually in the single season, you know, single women tend to think, I am lonely because I don't have a significant other. I don't have a boyfriend. I'm not married. And they attribute that to loneliness. And I'm not singling you out, sis. I'm not calling you out because that's what I did. I know it so well because I just knew if I could get in the right relationship or if I could just get married, then I would no longer experience loneliness. Until it all happened, until I got the things that I wanted and prayed for that I thought would cure my loneliness. And I was still lonely sometimes. And so it's like, you know, you could be, and you may have experienced this before, you can be in a room full of people and be lonely. And so being around others, being in a relationship will not cure your loneliness. And I want to make a distinction also that being alone doesn't necessarily mean that you're lonely, right? Those two things are not synonymous as well, because I remember, you know, I had that season of being so heartbroken, right? And I went through a period of being lonely, feeling very, very lonely. And then when God really started to work on my heart and I started to spend more time with him and actually like pursuing God and actually being genuine with my prayers and wanting a relationship with him. And when I entered my relationship with God, that is the thing that actually helped me in my time of loneliness. And so I was like, at that point, I was alone, but I was no longer lonely, if that makes sense. Hey sis, are you missing your ex, feeling lonely and feeling unworthy? Do you wish there was a way to stop crying yourself to sleep at night, get the closure you need after that breakup, and get over your ex? I understand. I know what it's like to have another failed relationship, have my heart broken, and feel like I will never find someone to love me. But sis, imagine if you can finally get past the pain, have a healed heart, find the peace you're looking for, and move on to what God has for you. Well, it's totally possible with my customized heart healing plan, where I give you personalized strategies for healing, letting go, and moving forward with God. You will be able to carry out simple steps to see real progress on your heart healing journey and actually gain peace. You will walk away with a detailed plan with a specific goal and between 1 to 3 simple steps to carry out the healing goal. Plus, you get accountability from me, and you can email me questions for 2 full weeks after our session. So if you're ready for your customized heart healing plan based on your specific healing needs with accountability and support, head over to CandiceABaddies.com/services to book your 60-minute heart healing coaching session. Spots are limited, so be sure to book yours today so you can finally heal and get to the life that God has for you. Remember this from Jeremiah 29:11, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." I love you, sis. Now let's get back to today's episode. And so I remember reading this article somewhere. I can't tell you exactly where, but it described loneliness as being more of a state of mind. Okay, that it wasn't necessarily like people are always like, I'm lonely because, and it always involves not having a certain person or people in your life or anything like that. But it's more of like, what are you doing or struggling with during that season or during that time when you are feeling lonely? So I really want to dig into the causes of loneliness on today, because I want you to be aware. I want you to be aware of the things that can be making you feel this way. And I want you to be aware because you may think that your remedy is to go out and get into another relationship with someone that you may not be compatible with, that you don't even really like, or even going back to your ex. And that's not necessarily the answer. So let's talk about these causes, because if you know more about what the causes of loneliness are, then it can help you navigate those feelings and emotions a lot better. Okay, so let's dig into it. So one cause of loneliness is fear. Okay, fear can cause you to feel lonely because fear, it makes you want to run to something and run somewhere to get away. And when we're afraid, we often want to go to a person, right? We want someone to protect us, someone to help us, someone to help us to feel less afraid of whatever it is that we are afraid of. And in the season of heartbreak, and after a breakup has occurred, then that fear could very well be fear of your future, not knowing what's going to happen, the fear of being alone. Again, loneliness and alone are not synonymous. They do often happen together, but they are not synonymous. But if you are fearful of being alone, then you will definitely have feelings of loneliness. Okay, so fear is one cause. The second cause is feeling like you're the only one experiencing a particular situation. All right. So you may feel isolated in whatever it is that you're going through. You may feel like I'm the only one. And of course, you know that you're not the only person who's dealing with a heartbreak or a breakup, right? But you may feel that your situation is so unique that no one else is going through it. No one else would understand it. And so it makes you feel lonely. Okay, whenever you're going through something that you feel no one else is going through, it definitely makes you feel lonely. And I have experienced this even recently in my life as I have walked through different seasons, different difficult situations, and just feeling like, not sure who would actually understand what it is that I was going through. And I had to tell myself, like, you don't have to be alone in this, right? You don't have to keep it all to yourself. Someone is going to understand your experience isn't that unique. And that's not to downgrade your experience, right? But I guarantee you someone has experienced what you have in some shape, form, or fashion, right? And if it's no one in your circle, then there's someone maybe on the outskirt of your circle. But sis, you don't have to be alone in this. You are not the only person. So go ahead, reassure yourself that you're not the only one experiencing your situation, okay? And that's where community comes into play. I wanted to throw that in too. Community comes into play at times like that. And so if you are not in community with anyone who's walking through a difficult season like this, who has experienced a breakup, come over to our Facebook group. We have a Facebook community where lots of people who listen to the podcast come on over. We continue conversations. People ask questions or ask for prayer and encouragement. We do things like that. And I post extra encouragement in the Facebook group. So if you haven't joined the group yet, come on over. There's a link in the show notes for that as well. Number 3, not being healed is the third cause of loneliness, okay? I talk about healing so much on this podcast because that is the main goal of this podcast, for you to find encouragement, but also find tips and strategies to heal. Healing your broken heart is so important. And when your heart is broken, I've talked so much about seeing things through a broken lens. And when you see your world like that through a broken lens, then things are distorted. You're not seeing correctly. And because you're not seeing correctly, then you feel lonely because things may not be as they appear through your broken lens, right? So when you are unhealed, you're unhealthy, and it's hard to trust others. It's hard to be in relationship and in community with other people. And so it makes you feel lonely when you are not healed. And then it's just a general sadness of your heart, because when you're unhealed, right, your heart is saddened, it's broken. And so you just have this general state of sadness that makes you feel lonely, and it contributes to your loneliness. It exasperates your loneliness. So actually working on your healing is so important. If you're battling with loneliness right now, healing is so important for you. You need to make sure that you are taking steps to get through your healing journey. And so I have so many episodes on tips and strategies for healing. Of course, I offer things like my book, my 365-day devotional, but I also can work with you one-on-one through my heart healing sessions. Okay, so if you have not yet booked your session, go ahead and do that, because that's going to help you deal with the loneliness. Okay. Number 4 is longing for a particular person or thing. Okay, so I say person or thing because it may be a person, or it may just be that you're longing for a relationship. All right. So you are longing for something that you do not have, or someone that you do not have. And so, yes, I'm not saying that you don't miss the person that you broke up with and that wouldn't cause you to be lonely, like it's all underlying things. No, that too will actually cause you to feel this emotion of loneliness. Okay. So definitely, but you have to guard your heart around that, right? Because just because you miss that person and you feel lonely, that is not the sign that you have to go back to that person. There just may need to be more healing work that needs to be done in order for you to move on and let that person go. And if it is a relationship that you are longing for, right? You're longing for marriage, you're longing for a long-term relationship or something of the sort, then when that is happening, it's like, okay, what do you do with these feelings? Because you're not there, you don't have this person. But when we are longing for relationships, sometimes it's like there's a void, right? There's a void there. And so you have to ask yourself, like, what is it that could fill this void aside from a man? And the truth is, sis, it's God. Okay, you have to let God fill that void. When you are longing for a relationship so much that your heart is aching and you can't get past the feeling of loneliness, you are lonely like day in and day out for an extended period of time, then sis, that means that your need for relationship is deeper than you know. And that need for relationship will not be filled by another human being. So you have to let God come in and fill that void and let him be the cure for your loneliness in that sense. And then that goes really ties into my number 5 is not spending time with God. And so again, when you are not in relationship with God, no other relationship is going to do for you. Okay. You may think that a relationship is filling a void, but at the end of the day, if that relationship ends, then what are you going to do? That void will come back. But if you're in relationship with God and then that relationship ends, you are going to hurt indeed. Okay. You will hurt and you're going to experience some loneliness and things like that for a little while, but it's not going to be for this extended amount of time. It's not going to be exasperated because you are in relationship with God. And when you allow God to come in and really start healing your heart, spending time with him, not because you want something, but because you want to be in relationship with him. We have to really examine what the relationship between ourselves and God is. Are we only looking for his hand, his blessings, or are we looking for his heart, that relationship part? So if you want to be in true relationship with God, you can't be all about blessings. When trials come and situations come that are not favorable or not desirable, we still have to be trusting of him and loving towards him and not, get mad and say, I can't believe you let this happen to me, because God is a good God. No matter what good or bad things happen in our lives, he's unchanging. He is unchanging. And so if you're not spending time with him, then you're going to feel lonely, especially if you're single. So even more so, like as a single person, like, you're thinking in the back of your mind, like the only reason I'm lonely is because I don't have a man. But in all actuality, if you're not spending time with God, having a man is not going to make you feel better. And I've experienced that as well. I've been in relationships, multiple relationships, where I was not spending time with God. I was not in relationship with God like I am now. And so I was in those relationships and still lonely. I have actually been married and lonely at times, okay? Because marriage is not a perfect thing. And if I am having seasons of busyness and constantly going, and then something happens, and then I realize, man, I haven't really been spending a lot of time with God but I don't even get to that conclusion until I'm like, man, I feel empty inside. I feel lonely. Why am I feeling like this? I mean, me and my husband might be on the outs, but I shouldn't be feeling this bad and this down and this lonely. And it's like, okay, the thing that is missing is my quality time with God. Okay, so it's like, but so to combat that is to stay in relationship with him, stay in communication with him. If you think about a natural relationship, you're going to be in communication with that person every single day, because how else is the relationship going to thrive? You can't thrive if you're never talking to that person, if you're never spending time with that person. The relationship will not thrive. It's likely going to end. It's not going to work. You won't even know the person. So, and the same is true with God. Like that relationship needs to be nurtured. Okay. And I talk a lot about nurturing your relationship with God and yourself in my course, Grieving the Living. I talk about it a good bit in there. And so if you haven't gotten that course yet, you can definitely hop on in. There's a link in the show notes for you. But, it's really important to nurture your relationship with God, because that is really truly the only cure. If you tried everything else and it's still nothing is working, then you truly do need to examine your relationship with God and say, what's lacking here? What do I need to do? And sometimes when it comes to nurturing our relationship with God, you have to look at things. You're like, but I spend time with him and I pray and things like that. But it's like, what's your heart behind it? Is it performance based? Is it I'm checking a box on my day to say, hey, yep, I prayed, check, like, how are you doing it? Are you truly, genuinely excited to spend time with God? So just some things for you to think about. Okay. Things for you to think about. make the adjustments where they need to be made. So let me go through these 5 things again that are these underlying causes of loneliness that maybe you haven't thought about. Number 1, fear. Number 2, feeling like you're the only one experiencing a particular situation. 3, not being healed. 4, longing for a particular person or thing. And 5, not spending time with God. Okay? So I hope this episode was helpful to you. I hope it allows you to really just think about what you are struggling with the most so that you can really start making some progress. And it'll give you an idea okay, you can book a heart healing session with me and it'll give you more of an idea about what it is that you should be working on, because sometimes we have one thing in our mind that we can work on, but it's not until you get a different or a fresh perspective that you're like, I think I've been focusing on the wrong thing. And maybe that's why I haven't made any progress on my healing journey. So this is what this episode is for. Again, like I said, I hope that it really does help you. And then I would love to hear from you in the Facebook group. If you haven't joined yet, go ahead and join. Just PSA, public service announcement. I've had some people to come in and join, and they have not answered the membership question. So if you requested to join but have not been approved yet, go ahead and make sure you've answered their membership questions. If not, come back and do that. You also have to agree to the group rules. You cannot do one and don't do the other, because I've had some people do that. I've had some people who actually agree to the group rules but don't answer the questions, and then some people who answer the questions and don't agree to the group rules. Both are required to get into the group. Okay, so I love you, sis, so much. And I'm praying for you as you walk through this difficult season. And I do know that there is victory waiting for you. You just have to work it out, sis. But there is healing available to you through our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And so go ahead and get what's yours. All right. I love you, sis. And I'll talk to you again next week. Love you. Bye. Hey, sis. Listen, if you have been blessed, changed, or inspired by this podcast in any way, please subscribe to the podcast and leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. This is the #1 way that you can thank me and show support for the show. Also, if this podcast blessed you, don't keep it to yourself. Do a quick share and bless someone else. Please know I am so grateful for each and every one of you, and I would love to hear from you. Come connect with me and other like-minded individuals in my Facebook group called Christian Women Overcoming Heartbreak and Finding Purpose. I can't wait to meet you back here really soon. Until then, remember to love the life you have while you're making it better. Love you, sis.